experience is difficult to control and affects how you feel physically. So yes, it can it affects your life. You think about things that are small to someone else, but they're huge to you. So let's say you're doing a homework assignment and you're worried about doing it perfectly. Some people might be like, oh, this is just, a simple, easy homework assignment. And it's so small for them. But for you, it's something really big, and it's something that's lingering in your head. And a lot of people, they don't get this treated, and so they go through life, like what EJ said, constantly worrying, worrying what might happen in the future. And obviously, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but there are ways to control it, and there are ways to cope with it. And there are different routes that you can take. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so this is what generalized anxiety disorder is. So, I want you to put yourself in their shoes. Imagine your friend has generalized anxiety disorder. Describe your friend with an anxiety disorder. What might he or she look like or act like to you? So I want you to think about it. We'll pair up and then we'll share. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about it, and then we'll pair up and then share. Alright, so now I want you guys to get in groups of 2 or 3 and turn to that group and start talking about what might this person look or act like to you.
I don't want to move because I'm holding the camera.
I think when it comes to what does anxiety, it looks like, it's like me and there's not really a specific look to it. Because I've met people who are, very unorganized and have general anxiety. I've met people who are neat freaks and have anxiety. So it just depends on person to person.
Yeah. I think to me, like, when I look at somebody, like, you can't tell that they have anxiety because it's not like it's, like, a physical, like, attribute. Like, it's internal. And so, but I do, like, I do have a couple friends who have been diagnosed with it, and it's like some of, like, their mannerisms, like, in situations, and, like, when you're talking to them, like, you can tell that they're anxious, because, like, my best friend has the anxiety disorder, and, like, it's just not something that you can physically see, but, like, if you get in conversation with them, then you can sometimes see it, but not always.
Like what traits?
Good conversation, guys.
More, I don't know, it kind of depends. Like, they could be talkative, so they kind of talk out them behind or whatever. It could be they're more.
It could, like,
I don't know, like.
I feel like, yeah, it's not. It's not gonna affect how you look, or like directly affect how you look. But it could be like, since you have an anxiety disorder, like it could like eventually affect how you look because you're not getting a lot of sleep, or you're forgetting about the parts of like keeping up with your body or whatever.
Maybe it makes them awkward.
Alright, let's get back together. And what I'll hear from 2 different people. Listen.
So, we put that they might act a little different than some other people around you. Like, they might be a little more shy because they're nervous about what other people might think about them. And they might have, like, anxious tendencies, like chewing on their fingernails or, like, playing with their hair. But other than that, they might just, like, fit in with, like, the average person.
Yeah, it's just something that's very easy to hide. We were talking about that in the group over here. It's something that can be very well hidden. So yes, I like some of the examples that you gave. Daniel.
Me and Colleen talked about, like, in regards to what does somebody with anxiety look like, you can't really tell. It could look like me, it could look like Spencer, it could look like anybody. It more comes down to actions, like Alyssa brought up with, chewing nails and playing with your hair. It comes down to that individual person's mannerisms and,
Yeah.
you know, how they behave in certain situations.
Mhm. So I think we can all agree that it can be very, very well hidden, but there are some signs that you can look for in your friends or anyone really to see kind of what they're dealing with. So good, I love the conversation that we had. I heard some really great answers. So some of the symptoms, they can feel overly anxious to fit in, be a perfectionist, redo tasks because they aren't perfect the first time, spend excessive time doing homework, lack confidence, strive for approval, require a lot of reassurance about performance, have frequent stomach aches or other physical complaints, avoid going to school, or avoid social situations. So because you guys are in middle school, you guys are starting to feel some of these things, some of these pressures. In elementary school, you didn't really feel them as much. I mean, you're still a kid. And now in middle school, you're starting to feel those different feelings, anxiety. You're going through puberty, which we'll talk about in a later unit. So a lot of these things are starting to build up. So, causes, biological and environmental factors. So like I said, a lot of this environment has to do with, so if you're in a stressful situation at school, you forgot to do your homework assignment, you're trying to get these done, you didn't get it right, so you have to redo it because that anxiety is kicking in. So you're trying to be that perfectionist and make it right to fit to what you see as good or perfect in your eyes. Also genetics. So let's say your mom or dad has it, you're probably likely to get it, and it's not their fault. It's it's out of your control, but that is a cause for anxiety. And then this one, stress. You don't have to be diagnosed with it. This is kind of just a feeling or something that you can deal or you're going through, but this one is not something that you have to be diagnosed with. So causes of stress, relationships. You guys are all getting into relationships around this time, am I right? So school responsibilities, homework, projects, group work, all this stuff. Financial strain. This one doesn't really pertain to you, but you can start feeling it from your parents. So if your parents are having financial strain, it will start to come onto you and you kind of feel that energy in that room or home. So that can cause a lot of stress too because you're worrying about your parents. Loss of a loved one, health problems, moving to a new location, exposure to one or more traumatic incidents such as a car accident or violent crime. Trust me, I was stressed after I ran into those 2 trees. It was funny, but I did not want to drive after that for about 2 weeks. I was stressed about it. It was on ice. It wasn't my fault. Kind of was going a little bit too fast, so make sure you drive slow on ice, just FYI. I was definitely stressed about it for a week, and I had to have my dad drive me in high school. So after about 2 weeks, I was able to drive again because I was able to cope with some of the stresses that came onto me, and I was able to get through it. So, some of the side effects of stress. So there are side effects on your behavior, on your mood, and also on your body. So on your body, headaches, muscle tension, chest pain, fatigue, upset stomach, sleep problems. On your mood, you have anxiety, restlessness, lack of motivation, feeling overwhelmed, irritability or anger, sadness or depression. And on your behavior, overeating or undereating, angry outbursts, drug or alcohol misuse, tobacco use, social withdrawal, and exercising less often. So how many of you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, have felt one of these symptoms one time or another? I definitely have. So, we can all agree that this is something that, even though you don't have to be diagnosed with it by a medical professional, it is real, and there are, as you can see, some side effects that do come out with the cause of stress. So, our next one. Do we have any questions about stress or anxiety? Nope, thumbs up or thumbs down, whether you feel like you're good with it. Okay. All right, so we're going to go into the major depressive disorder. So, who can tell me what they think their best answer to what this is? Daniel.
Like a general feeling of sadness and there's no other way to put it than sadness, because I was going to say depression, but obviously, that you can't seem to get rid of no matter what happens.
Yeah, I like that. So no matter what happens, unless you take those extra steps to minimize the symptoms, then yeah, you do feel that sadness. Nice. So,
You know Raven off of Teen Titans?
I don't. Sorry.
That's what she is, like the way she acts. So like she's really like closed off and like she lives in the dark basically and like tries to meditate a lot and just reads.
Yeah. So a lot of people, you know, can just not socialize with people. I think that's what you're kind of talking about, right? Even though I haven't seen that movie or TV show.
You need to.
It's a TV show. But she's very like dark and closed off. She keeps to herself. She doesn't, you know.
Okay. So, Melissa.
It's like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, Eeyore. He's very, you know, he will interact with people, but he's all like down and sad and blue. So we're all talking about things that are visibly seen. But like, just like anxiety, the anxiety disorder, things can be very well hidden. Anxiety and depression go hand in hand. So a lot of times if someone is diagnosed with anxiety or depression, they're diagnosed with the other. It's not always the case, but it sometimes is, because a lot of these symptoms are the same, one can lead to the other. So that's why these illnesses have to be taken very seriously, and that's why we're educating you about it. So it's a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. It affects how you feel, think, and behave, and can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. It is not just the blues. You cannot simply stop being down. So, like Daniel said, it's something that you're consistently feeling for a long period of time. When I was looking something up, I saw that it's a persistent sadness of a certain amount of time, let's say 2 weeks. And so, if you're really sad, if you lost a loved one, and it persists, that can be caused depression. But if you're sad because your boyfriend broke up with you for one day and then you get over him, that's not what we would classify as depression. You may be sad, but not depressed. You can, some of these words you kind of have to say carefully, you have to tread lightly, because a lot of people will take these terms to heart. So just kind of watch what you say. So we're going to do this again. Think about your friend who has this. Describe it. What might he or she look like? So I want you to pick different groups this time. And then go ahead and think about it.
Okay, stay there.
Don't move the
I
camera.
know, I don't want to move the
Jeez.
Okay, AJ?
I'm alright.
Alright.
I would say they honestly, it's kind of like the last answer.
There are people who are like the brightest person out there, very happy, with that
Depression is something where people
So
tend
I
to
just
fake it till they make it in a sort of way. So it's like most people don't realize
it really
that
does
people
have
are going through depression, and they might not even like bat an eye if somebody's like acting a little off, because they'll be like, oh, that's just they kind of like overlook it. So I just feel like they'll mainly be, for the most part, as normal as they can be, but they might just act like tired, or they might be closed off, be kind of shy.
I honestly feel like with depression, like sometimes the people who seem the happiest, like in your lives, are actually the ones who are really struggling inside. And I feel like, because I can kind of see that in some people like that I work with and stuff, like they are trying so hard to like fit in and do their best that like it's almost to an exhaustive state where like you know something else is like going on. And so like I feel like with depression, like it can be really visible if like the person who has depression has that personality to like show it, but it also could be hidden like super well. So it kind of just depends.
I agree.
She is very passionate. She's dealt with it well. She can talk about it. She's perfectly fine.
Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this.